They say when a woman reaches a certain age, she starts to disappear. But my guest today knows that being lost is often just the beginning of a bigger story. Today, I'm joined by investigative powerhouse Rachel Hartigan, a veteran journalist with over a decade at National Geographic. Rachel has reported on everything from the road to women's suffrage to complex genetics. The former editor of the Washington Post's book world, she has spent most of her recent years in the trenches searching for the truth behind a legend. And that legend is Amelia Earhart. Her new book, Lost, doesn't just look for a plane. It uncovers the fearless, extraordinary woman who refused to stay silent. Rachel, welcome. I love hearing about women who refuse to stay silent.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
Well, let's dive straight in. What do you think? Why did Amelia call you? Out of all the amazing women in the world, what about her extraordinary life do you think called you?
Well, I mean, it was kind of random. I was working for National Geographic, and an editor stopped me in the hall one day and said, "Do you want to go on an expedition to, to look for Amelia Earhart's bones?" And I really didn't have a clear idea of where that expedition would go. But I said yes, because when I joined National Geographic, I told myself, even wrote a little note that said, say yes to everything, because it was a little bit out of my comfort zone. I had been an editor of book reviews, which is not a big adventurous kind of job. So this was a totally different field. So I found her indirectly, and I kind of discovered her more as I started to report on this expedition and on the people who were so obsessed with her.
You got to go, they went, go and find Amelia's bones.
Yeah, I mean,
wow. Oh, that's just cool.
Yeah, it was fun. And it was too, an island closer to you than to me, because I'm on the east coast of the US, called Nicomaroro, which is part of Kiribati. And it is really in the middle of the ocean. You can't see anything else around it. No other boats, no planes. And I was there with a bunch of archaeologists and some bone sniffing dogs and some tourists who had paid to come along. So, and then our National Geographic team. So it was quite an adventure. It was something I had never done anything like that before.
Or dreamed of?
No, I hadn't really dreamed of it, but then I couldn't say no. I mean, how could you say no to something like that?
Oh my God, what an adventure. That's seriously cool. Just to work for National Geographic, I think, is really cool, let alone to get asked to do that kind of work.
Yeah, no, I felt very lucky to be there. It really stretched me in a lot of ways.
So what do you think her extraordinary life relating to the wise women of today, what do you think if she were here, what do you think she would teach those adventurous, fierce women today?
I think a lot about a phrase that she used sort of as her explanation for why she did these exciting, dangerous flights. People would ask her, why are you doing this? Why are you flying across the Atlantic? Why are you flying across the Pacific from Hawaii to California? Why are you doing all these dangerous things? And she would just say, for the fun of it. And she felt like men didn't need to give explanations, so why should she? And I think now people are still trying to do things for the fun of it, but it's really hard because you have to have good reasons and you have all these responsibilities and you feel like you have to justify it. And I think remembering that you can do something just because you want to do it is something I try to remind myself of, but fail often. And I think that's something that she would bring to us.
I love that. You're right. We justify so many of our choices nowadays versus just doing it. I love that.
Yeah.
Huge. So Earhart disappeared attempting to fly around the world, which we know, kind of around that equatory time, which was going to be hard to top with anything. Do you know what she was planning to do next as she started to enter middle age?
I think she was thinking about devoting more time to a position that she held at Purdue University, which is like an energy or engineering school in Indiana here, very, one of the top schools in the US. And she had been recruited to coach and guide young women, this would be in the 30s,
Wow.
towards their own careers and not just, go to college for the MRS degree, as people used to say, but to
What was
go
the
and think about,
MRS?
well, what do you,
What was the MRS?
Mrs.
Oh,
You would go to meet your
really?
husband. Yes.
No.
Yes. I mean,
Oh,
they were saying
wow.
that for, not until
Wow.
probably the 70s. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, in fact, it got to the point where some of the male students complained to Earhart saying, "You're making it hard for us to get wives here," which she dismissed that criticism. She did not think that
What
was
a
worth
bloody legend.
addressing.
I love it.
Yeah, oh, I know, totally a legend. But she really encouraged women to find what they wanted to do. One thing she would say is, if a boy wants to cook, why can't he cook? And if a girl wants to, play around with engines in a car or a plane or whatever, why shouldn't she do that? We have everything divided by gender, and that doesn't make sense. She was saying this in the 30s. So she was really ahead of her time and not really shackled by notions of what you're supposed to do. She just wanted to do what she wanted to do. So she was kind of free in a lot of ways.
Wow. Just that. Like everything I've really heard about her is always about that she was flying around the world and she died, crashed on the island, blah, blah. That's it. Like we don't say anything about how she lived. What do you think
Mm-hmm.
that says about us as a society? Is because the patriarch writing and all that kind of stuff in the past versus what? I don't know. What do you think it says about us? That's crazy. I didn't know that about her.
Yeah.
What a legend.
um, I think it says a lot of things. I mean, one of it just says that we like stories, we like mysteries, and we like stories that have resolution. And this story does not have a resolution. And another thing it says, I think, is she was very, very famous when she disappeared. She was one of the most famous people in the world, very recognizable. A lot of people, they heard her on the radio, they saw her on the newsreels. She was very familiar. And it seems kind of impossible for somebody that famous just to disappear. Like, shouldn't somebody tell us what happened? And then I think another thing too is, if you talk about what she was doing and hold her up, we kind of have to look at what we're doing now. Like, are we living this way? Are we letting people just do what they feel driven to do rather than confining them to what gender stereotypes or, any sort of limitation that you can think of? I think, that can be a little bit scary for people to think about, a little bit dangerous to existing structures. So I think there's just all these things are tangled up together.
Yeah, she was. She was an icon. And I think of women today, because the majority of my listeners, are women approaching and in midlife.
Mm-hmm.
And they're trying to be that perfect leader and perfect mother and perfect partner. And Amelia was, like you're just saying, was kind of like almost a symbol, this icon rather than just a person. What
Yeah.
what do you think? Well, what showed through most of her personality or her life? Do you think it's so important? Or what was most important for you to restore in writing this book?
Well, I think there were a few things. One, she was such a curious person, and she was a person who tried a lot of things. She tried to learn the banjo. Was it the banjo or the mandolin? She tried to learn the mandolin, just kind of randomly. She, if somebody said, "Do you want to fly this auto gyro?" which was kind of like a helicopter, she said, "Sure." I mean, she would just try things. So she had a very open approach to life. So her life wasn't just about flying. I mean, she loved to fly, obviously, but it was very rich in a lot of ways. But the other thing that I didn't know was how long it took her to be who we know her to be now. I mean, she was 30 when she kind of burst upon the world stage just as a passenger flying from North America to Europe. And she wasn't just this young thing, she was a full-grown adult, but she had bounced around jobs. She had lived in Toronto, she had lived in Los Angeles, she had lived in Boston, she had tutored. She was looking for something. And she was engaged, but she kept putting off the marriage and ultimately canceled the engagement. She was lost for a while. So I always think about that. People expect these famous people just to burst forth, full grown, know what they want to do, on a straight path. And that's just not her story at all.
Because for her, it's even more extraordinary, I think, because for her time, those years, 20s and 30s, like there was such a, like you're saying, that the Mrs. degree, it was just such a, you will just get married at 20 or whatever, and that's full stop, finished. So for her to do that, she must have copped some flack, you'd have to think.
Yeah, I mean, she was engaged to this guy, Sam Chapman. How many years was it? It was probably 4 to 5 years, I believe. And he was smart. He was an engineer. He admired all, her spirit and everything, but he also thought that he should be the one with the job and she would be the one to keep the house. And she just did not want to do that. I think that sounded like hell to her, even though she loved him, but she just could not do that.
Yeah. I love that she stuck to her guns, so to speak, that she still she wanted to do. That was actually really courageous for those days.
Yeah, and she did end up getting married, but she married her publicist basically. But she wrote him a letter the morning that they got married, basically saying, "We need to let each other be free. Let's give it a year and see how it goes. I might need to go away sometime just for some private time." It's not clear what she meant by that. So she was very nervous about getting stuck and trapped in the regular role of a woman at that time.
Wow. You write about the fact that Amelia had 3 mysterious deaths.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Yeah.
That's a big concept.
Yeah, it is obviously she would have only died once, but there are 3 main theories.
Yeah, give us a.
Yeah. She wasn't magical, but she
gave it a crack.
There are 3 main yeah. There are 3 theories about what happened to her, and one is, very obvious, that she ran out of gas on her way to this, flying from New Guinea to this tiny island named Howland Island, just north of the equator. And she and her navigator got lost, and they ran out of gas when they couldn't find the island. Another theory is that she got lost, but instead of running out of gas and crashing into the ocean, she ended up landing on this island called Nicomoro, which is just about 400 miles south of Nicomoro, where she landed on a coral reef that surrounded this island and ended up dying a castaway, she and her navigator. And then the other theory, which has many exciting offshoots, I'll say, is that either she got lost and she ended up in the Marshall Islands and the Japanese captured her and she eventually died or was killed, or she was actually a spy for the US government and
I like that one.
flew to Saipan or to the Marshall Islands to see what the Japanese were doing in their mandated islands, because the Japanese at the time were not allowing a lot of foreigners into that area. And then she was captured and, either had her head cut off or died of dysentery or was shot or somehow was involved in plotting Pearl Harbor, or ended up undercover in disguise living in New Jersey until she died from natural causes. So there's not a lot of evidence for that one.
It's a good one, but just thinking of her personality, fits.
Yeah. Oh, it's very adventurous.
What's your educated guess from spending so much time researching her?
Well, the expeditions went on were investigating the castaway theory. And that was really interesting because this group called Tiger has been there many times to this island. And they've done archaeological digs with, real archaeologists. And they've found signs that a castaway was on the island. They've found signs of a fire. They've found signs of glass jars being used to heat water. They've found clamshells and other suggestive things. None of those can be tied to Earhart. So even though that's the one I spent the most time on investigating, I've still, at this point, there's no hard evidence for anything, basically. So I'm going with Occam's razor and just probably she ran out of gas and ended up in the ocean. But I don't know. I don't know what happened.
No.
Nobody does, even if they say they do.
Yeah. Well, what an interesting thing to. I want option 3. The adventure in me has to go for that one.
Right. Yeah. Well, who knows? People are still looking into it.
In the wellness world, or because I'm a naturopath by trade, where we're often told that we have to start over and reinvent ourselves to be relevant, and so many women reach this time doing the what's next. Do you think Amelia was trying to reinvent herself with this big adventure, or just refusing to shrink, or it was just the way she was?
You wanted to, I mean, this was the biggest thing you could do, is fly around the world or the equator. It took her a month. And I think she was thinking that this was the last big thing that she could do. And it was also hopefully going to be a moneymaker for her, because after she did the flights, she would do these really extensive and grueling lecture tours all over. And I think once that was done, she was starting to think about how she could use her influence to get more women in careers. I don't know, she might have even, it would have been interesting to see what she did during World War II, because there were a lot of women pilots that got involved, not in combat. I just think she would have kept busy. She was not somebody who was just going to retreat. She was close with Franklin Roosevelt, the president. She was part of airlines, and they were still trying to get airlines going as an actual business. People were a little skeptical about getting into these dangerous machines. So she had so much going on. She probably would have written more. She wrote several books, and she was a really nice writer. So she would have done whatever she wanted.
Did you find anything that kind of said that she got drained or tired at times from being that icon, and everyone expecting her to be that icon, that pressure of that, from what she'd already achieved before she did that flight?
She does talk about, well, you know how you talk about some people are extroverts, but they're also introverts. I think
I'm one. I'm an extrovert.
Yeah,
I'm an introvert who plays an extrovert, 100%.
Right, exactly. And I think she was like that. I think she really needed to take breaks, go off by herself. She was somebody who could nap anywhere. And I think that was kind of her way of breaking her connection to whatever was going around her. So I think she was a little bit ambivalent, but she also really cultivated this persona, this down home, all American girl who would talk to anybody, do anything. So yeah, I mean, when she was at Purdue with the female students, she would eat dinner with them. She was always reaching out to people.
Really accessible.
So yeah, she was very accessible.
I love it. How old was she when she passed?
She was almost 40. Yeah.
Just legendary. She's even better than I thought. I can't wait for your book to come out It's like, oh. So who came up with the book title Lost? Was that you or
I
the
did.
publishers? You did.
I did. Yeah.
Why?
There was the,
Why?
well, one, because obviously she probably did get lost, but also just this idea of all these people who are looking for her
Mm,
and sort of some of them at least getting lost down these rabbit holes and getting going down paths that take them away from who she was and just really focusing on sort of winning this race of finding out who she was. And it also implied to me that she could become unlost. And I think at this point she'd be over 100 years old. I don't think she's going to come flying into
mm.
landing finally. But yeah, that just seemed to capture so much of what her story is for us now.
It's huge. And if I think about women today, somewhere around that 40-year-old, and she was searching earlier, but it's like the biggest word that I use, which is why your book really appealed to me, is that I meet so many women who are lost.
Yeah.
Life's good. They've got this, the career and the family,
Yeah.
whatever. They've got the stuff, but there's something in them that it's like, where am I going? What am I doing?
Hmm.
And her story is, I think, is so, I could cry, so relevant to where women are at today. And
Yeah.
I love that you
Well,
say that she could become unlost. She could find herself.
yeah. Yeah. But in the same way, if we say somebody finds the plane, we didn't make a good guess about what happened to her, or finds her bones or
Yeah.
something like that, that doesn't necessarily change her story that much. We still have her story. The thing that we're obsessing about is just this short little period of time that is just a percentage of who she was. And the other thing I would say is that I was definitely one of those women. I mean, going on these expeditions and writing this book was my midlife crisis. So maybe I have that connection to her.
Yeah. It's so common. It's the most common thing I find as a practitioner. If I think of,
Hmm.
people coming, what they're looking for themselves. It's huge.
Yeah.
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 Do you think she found a sense of freedom? You're saying you think she was the introvert who played the extrovert and
Hmm.
needed that time away. Thinking even about yourself, how can we claim that same kind of sense of freedom without needing to disappear and crash a plane, but in such a busy world? And even your
Yeah.
book's about to launch. That's going to set you off on a trajectory,
Hmm.
with all the press and all the stuff that comes with it.
Hmm.
How do you preserve your energy when you need to have your time?
Oh, that's hard. Well, for me, it's always going outside. For her, I think flying did that for her
Mm,
because when she's in flight, it's loud. She has to look at all these instruments. She has to hope that nothing breaks, but she's also seeing the world the way few people see it. I mean, we forget
mm,
that most people hadn't looked down and seen what farm fields look like from the air. We don't have no sense of the squares and the circles and what a city looks like and the small cars. She had this view that I think gave her some perspective and gave her some like her own place literally in the clouds. And I think that was very it could have been very rejuvenating for her, as exhausting as it was.
mm.
And I think even the flight around the world, it was absolutely exhausting. And you can see in the pictures towards the end, she has these huge bags under her eyes. She just looks really tired. But also landing in all these places where she's never been and seeing things she never seen. I mean, she just got so much joy and energy from that. She went to East Timor. I mean, how many people have been there? I guess it was Timor at the time. She was, flying across Africa and I think, just having these experiences kind of build up your soul a bit.
Did she talk about some of her favorite places that she discovered or saw when she was flying? Did she write about
Where was,
that kind of stuff?
yeah, I mean, not only was she flying, but she was also keeping notes and writing articles to send them back to US newspapers. So of course she was tired.
Bloody
I'm a
legend.
journalist and there's no way.
You don't want to fly at the same time as you write. So, and nowadays you'd sit comfortably in the plane,
Oh yeah.
flying the plane and writing.
I know. And just think how the noise. She does talk about flying over the Amazon River and seeing where it's coming out into the ocean and just spreading out and seeing all the different currents, which I mean, she writes beautifully about that.
And back in the 30s, it would have looked really different to what it looks like today.
Right. Not all
like,
the silt and
yeah.
Yeah. She when she landed in Africa, oh shoot, I'm gonna forget the city that she was writing about, but she was just so amazed by all the color, the people wearing the color, what everything smelled like. A lot of the places where she was landing, almost all of them were still colonial. They were still colonies. So there's these weird comments about she was at a place where it was a French colony and the lights were made by wine bottles. And she was, they had little candles in the wine bottles. And she's like, oh, the French, of course, they're wearing the berets. And she did kind of make some ethnic and national stereotypes, which wouldn't fly now. But her eyes were wide open all the time.
Yeah. Did she ever speak of who or what was her inspiration?
Well, her mother, who she had a kind of complicated relationship with, was also very adventurous before she got married. I mean, she was one of the first women to climb, one of the tallest mountains in the Rocky Mountains. She was always up for adventure, and she always encouraged Amelia and her sister Muriel to do whatever. Actually, both her parents did. They bought them footballs when that's not something American footballs when that's not something that girls would normally get. Her mother made them bloomers so that
It was big.
they
Women
could
were
actually play
in those days. Wow.
right. So
she had a cool mom. Yeah.
She had a cool mom. So I think, and there were some family difficulties. Her father was an alcoholic, but she was raised with this idea that she could do anything. And I think that made a big difference. And this is the coolest thing. She, starting in her teens, she kept a scrapbook of all the news articles she saw talking about a woman doing something in a job. So, and I mean, it was every kind of
I
job.
love this woman, even more than I thought.
Yeah. So, a woman with a business, a woman who became a lawyer, and a woman who became a doctor, just anything that hinted at the other opportunities that were out there for women. So
Wow.
she was a legend.
She was. Wow, you've lit something in me. That's so cool. I've got to do a lot more reading on this woman. Can't wait for your book to come out. Before we came on air, I was talking about how I got excited when, we were talking about you being on the podcast, and I saw that you'd written that article on women's suffrage for National Geographic, because the suffragettes, when I learned about them, I was like in my late 20s. I just went, how can I not know about these women who were so courageous? And I love that you sent me the article. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I was so excited to read that too. But you traced how women were told to wait, behave, and be respectable.
Yeah.
While men argued over their rights.
Right.
So, do you remember what kind of patterns from the suffrage movement are still being used to silence women nowadays, but probably with better PR? Because women are being wound back so quick, which is why I started this podcast a year ago.
Yeah.
I went, I'm just going to get louder about women's stories. They're not going to tone us down. What do you remember
Yeah.
from that?
Well, yeah, I love doing that story. That
Mm,
was one of my favorite things.
mm,
Um, I think, I mean, just in the way that women's issues are framed, it's like there's people's issues, which is men's issues, and then women's issues are separate, or children's issues, but that's part of women's issues. So even in the framing in how we talk about, say, public policy or politics, a whole, like, arguably the most important parts of life, families and everything, are just pushed off to a side. And that's just what women deal with. And it's maddening.
yeah, really
And when you look
frustrating.
at, yeah, and you look at representation and how little representation there still is in public spaces. I mean, there's so much more than there used to be. I certainly have seen a big change in my lifetime, but it's only, I guess, when I wrote the story, that was in 2020. Um, it's only been in the last 6, 7 years that one of the state legislatures in the US had more women than men. And I mean, women have had the vote for, here for more than 100 years, but
Yeah.
it took so much longer than just getting the vote to get any sort of actual political power.
Well, having the vote didn't mean having power, did it? We got the
Yeah.
vote, but especially for Black or Indigenous or working class
Oh,
women,
yeah.
it didn't mean shit. And it's still such a tough fight.
Yeah. I mean, that's just amazing. And Black women didn't get the vote. I mean, really until the 60s, depending on where they lived.
Yeah. Well, same in
Indigenous women weren't
Australia.
even,
They didn't count our Indigenous folk.
right.
They didn't count in our constitution till they weren't people until it's
Oh,
1968.
wow.
How fucked up is that?
That's crazy. Yeah. It's
Let
just,
alone
you
get
look
the vote.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then you look at the people who were pushing back against all that and just
Mm.
think, how how did they have the self-confidence to think, you know what, this is not right, and I know everybody's telling me I should be a certain way, but I know to my core that it doesn't have to be that way. There were Puerto Rican women who were pushing back, there were Hawaiian women, there were Chinese women, there were indigenous women, and of course there were the power in the Black women's community was just, they very strong. So there were a lot of people who just would not take the definition that society was foisting on them. But
Mm.
even with that self confidence, it took a long time.
Yeah. And since I learned of the suffragettes in the UK, chained themselves to Parliament, the gates of Parliament. And these were just like women of every diverse kind of
Yeah.
status in those days, and went on hunger strikes and were jailed. And it's just like, how can I not
Hmm.
help personally? How can I not help carry the rights, I guess, that we should, we got to keep advancing women. They fought so hard for us. And
Yeah.
even Amelia doing
Yeah.
what she did, fucking hell. Like, how can we not carry that energy forward? I feel like I remember Marianne Williamson, she wrote that poem for Mandela, and she talks about, when we shine our light, it gives other people permission to do theirs. And I see these women who've come before us, and even today still, who help give me the
Hmm.
courage to take the step, and to get louder and relentless, and even when it's inconvenient, because otherwise
Yeah.
we get quietly written out of history.
Yeah.
And it's not because we're
Yeah. And that's,
failing, it's almost because they want to write us out because we're getting louder.
oh, yeah. I mean, that's when the fight gets strongest. It's when you're about to win.
Who inspires you
Yeah.
nowadays?
Um, that's funny. Jesse Jackson just died.
Oh, I
And I
saw that
remember when,
yesterday.
yeah. And I was thinking about how, the civil rights, all the people who worked on civil rights and had such big successes, but then, we think of it as, a discrete period. But it wasn't. The fight kept going, and he's somebody who said, okay, yes, we got these laws passed, but there's so much more that we can do. And he just kept doing it. And I just keep thinking about, there's a image of him on the night that Barack Obama won the presidency in 2008. And somebody took a picture of Jesse Jackson with the tears going down his cheeks. And I just think of all the people who work before the big success, who laid the groundwork. Yeah, I mean that's who I, in a sort of a global sense, that who I admire. And then there's, of course, all the writers that I'm always trying to figure out how they're doing what they're doing.
Yeah, it's change. My wife Alice, she reminds me often that change takes time. I've been lately in such a frustrated, this has to change. It can't, I
Mhm.
feel like we've been going backwards in a big way, particularly for women recently.
Yeah,
And she's like, takes time. That's the thing, Jesse, he didn't stop fighting. We just
yeah,
have to keep advancing it and taking a stand.
yeah. And you don't know necessarily, everybody's doing their small pushes, and you don't know when the boulder is all of a sudden going to start rolling. You just
Yeah.
don't know.
When Jane Goodall died,
Oh,
I,
yeah.
I found a great piece from her about how she saw that life was a jigsaw. And we all have to put our piece of the jigsaw puzzle in, or the jigsaw
No.
can't get complete. And we can't see where all those pieces are coming from. But we have to still keep doing our piece, and kind of gave me peace to keep fighting. I could cry. The amazing people who come before us. So you immersed yourself in like a century, mindfully in a century of women fighting to be heard.
Hmm.
What changed in how you understand your own voice and that responsibility that comes with telling these stories, especially now?
Well, one thing that really struck me is just how long things take.
Mm,
How long, I mean, women were fighting for the vote. They were starting to fight for more rights, and, well, I mean, forever. But in this particular case, 1830s or so.
yeah.
Um, and how, you just have to move things incrementally. And I am very lucky, I was born in the 70s. I have parents who just assumed I could do whatever I wanted to. And I don't have skills as a charismatic leader, but I can tell people's stories. That's like that's my skill, is to find out about these people and tell the stories of their lives and make it more nuanced than people expect, make people realize that, Amelia Earhart was a real person. She wasn't a two-dimensional person. She wasn't a heroine or hero. She was a person who did amazing things, and lots of people can do amazing things in whatever context. It's just, life is complicated. Life takes you in interesting places, and you just sort of have to bring your whole self to it, just which is what she did.
Mm, she's huge. She's huge. What an honor to get to write about her.
Yeah, yeah, and it was fun.
Who's another woman you'd love to write about?
I'm thinking about maybe doing something, well, on a group of people, but one of them would include Dorothea Lange, who was a photographer. She was a photographer in the 30s, and she was one of the people hired by the US government to go around and document the Depression. But she was also married to a painter who used to paint. I'm from Nevada and Western, so very deserty area in the western part of the States. And her husband, for a time, was a painter, and all these artists and painters used to interact in San Francisco. Um, And so I'm interested in looking at, Dorothea Lange was another person who was living at the same time and refused to be bound by convention. But she was an artist, but she was also a journalist. And yeah, I just like that era too, because there was so much going on.
It was, and courageous in really big times. Super cool women to stand out of the noise. It's big for us still today to stand out, kind of out of the box that's expected for us. However, in those days, that was wildly different to now.
Yeah.
Wow. Love it. What have we not talked about yet today that you would like to speak into, Rachel?
Oh, what haven't we talked about? This has been a great conversation.
I've loved it. This is your moment.
Yeah.
Share with me.
What have we talked
What is your soapbox moment? What do you got? About Amelia or anything?
Well, I'm just, one thing I thought about a lot of the people who search for her, and it might sometimes sound like I'm dismissing them, but I really am not dismissing them, because they're also, even if their theories might not be provable at this point, they are also people who are seeking adventure and who are pushing themselves, and trying to explore their world in their own way. And I think that kind of approach to life should always be celebrated. So hats off to them too.
Hats off to them all. Hats off to you.
Oh, thank you.
I have two big important questions. One,
okay,
if you could go back to your 18-year-old self with the wisdom you have today, what would you whisper in your ear?
Oh, wow. I think I would say something like, you can do it, or you're enough. Just, keep trying things, because I was so shy and so not sure of myself. And I know my 18-year-old self would be really excited that I'd written a book. But I mean, I'm a late bloomer. I'm 54 writing my first book. I would just say, keep trying things, keep doing it. And someday you'll have a dog, which is what I really wanted at the time.
All right. Question number 2. This is big.
Okay.
What would Amelia whisper in your ear when you were 18?
Just do it for the fun of it. Do it for the fun of it. Yeah.
I think that's probably a piece that's been missed. I really can't wait to read your book. That, the whole, that fun, and she was just a cool chick who was out there.
Yeah. I'm sure she was great to hang out with.
We don't hear. We hear the tiniest piece.
Yeah. And she did stop in Australia too.
Yeah. I've seen pictures of that stuff. Yeah. And we learn about it at school. Totally learned about it. This much.
Right.
Yeah. So, wow. Well, your book comes out as we record this. It's out in a couple of weeks' time, the 3rd of March, 2026, depending on when and how you're listening to this episode. Rachel, thank you. I have loved my time with you, and you've inspired me. Like, she's an even cooler chick. Just can't wait to read your book.
Oh, great. Well, thank you so much, Jen. It's been great.
My pleasure. And I look forward to whatever you write in the future too. This is your first book. I think there's big things to come.